Hi guys, this is Jack, and welcome back to History for Sleep. So find a comfortable spot, let the world outside fade away, and get ready to listen. The process of cleaning up. Maria collects dirty glasses, her movements slow and weary. Sal wipes down the tables, upends the chairs, and begins to sweep the floor. The rasp of his broom on the wooden floor, sweeping up sawdust, cigarette butts, and the detritus of the night, is a soothing, final sound. You finish your count. You separate the house's take from Sal's share, your own small wage, and the money set aside for bribes and protection. You bundle it all neatly, recording the final tally in your ledger. The numbers are good tonight. That means another week of survival. Another envelope you can send home. The final patrons are gently but firmly encouraged to leave. Sal locks the front door, the sound of the heavy bolts sliding home echoing in the now empty room. The speakeasy is once again a quiet, sleeping space. Your communal meal is the last ritual of the night. Maria brings out 3 bowls of leftover soup and the last of the bread. You sit together at one of the clean tables, the 3 of you bathed in the light of a single lamp. No one speaks much. There is nothing left to say. You are bound by a shared exhaustion that is deeper than words. You eat, and the simple act of putting warm food into your body is a profound comfort. The journey home is the final hurdle. Sal walks with you for the first few blocks, a silent, hulking guardian. The streets are different now, empty and echoing. The silence is more menacing than the daytime noise. Every footstep, your own and those of unseen others, rings out with startling clarity. The shadows in the alleyways seem deeper, more threatening. He leaves you at the corner of your street with a gruff, "Good night." You watch him walk away before you turn and hurry the last few hundred feet to your building. You have your key clutched in your fist, the sharp edges pressing into your palm. You climb the 5 flights of stairs, your legs heavy as lead. Each step is an effort. The building is quiet now, the sounds of life muffled behind closed doors. You let yourself into your apartment as quietly as you can. Anna is asleep, a dark shape under the blanket. The room is frigid, colder than it was when you left. The small fire in the stove has long since died out. Your final preparations for sleep are a study in weariness. You pour the last of the water from the pitcher into the basin. It feels like ice against your skin as you wash your face and hands, trying to scrub away the grime and the smell of the speakeasy. The smoke clings to you, a stubborn ghost. You will never be entirely free of it. You undress in the dark, your fingers fumbling with the buttons on your dress. You hang it on a nail on the wall, hoping some of the smell will dissipate by morning. You slip into your thin nightgown, the cold cotton a shock against your warm skin. If you enjoy the show, a like or a subscription is always appreciated. It helps the channel grow. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know where you are listening from tonight. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Lying down is both a relief and an agony. The moment your body is horizontal, every ache and pain, ignored and suppressed for hours, comes rushing back. Your feet throb with a dull, insistent beat. Your back spasms. The headache behind your eyes pulses in time with your heart. The lumpy mattress offers no comfort, only a collection of new and interesting pressure points. Sleep does not come easily. Your mind, which has been focused and sharp all night, now begins to race. It cycles through the worries that you keep at bay during the day. The ever-present threat of a real police raid, one that the weekly bribe cannot stop. The fear of getting sick. If you cannot work, you cannot earn. And if you cannot earn, you and Anna will be out on the street. The constant grinding worry about money, a calculation that is always running in the back of your mind. How much for rent, for food, for the envelope home? The sounds of the night from the speakeasy play on a loop in your head. The clinking of glasses, the murmur of 100 conversations, the sad, sweet notes of Jasper's piano. The faces of the patrons float in the darkness behind your eyelids. You see the desperation in their eyes, the frantic search for something they could never find in the bottom of a glass. You are a purveyor of oblivion, a merchant of temporary escape. You think of the sheer scale of it all. Thousands of places like Sal's, hidden in basements and back rooms all across the city. A vast, secret world operating in the shadows of the legitimate one. A whole economy built on a law that everyone, from the richest banker to the poorest laborer, seems determined to break. A mainstream historical fact is that by the late 1920s, it was estimated there were over 30,000 speakeasies in New York City alone, more than double the number of legal taverns that had existed before Prohibition. The attempt to legislate morality had, ironically, created an entire industry of vice. Your thoughts begin to fragment, to drift. The crisp numbers from your ledger blur into the faces of the crowd. The sound of the tugboat horn from the morning melds with the sound of the saxophone from a club down the street. You are floating in a sea of sensation, a collage of the day's experiences. This is the human condition, you think, in this time and in this place. A constant struggle between the desire for order and the need for chaos. The city itself is a testament to that. The rigid grid of the streets, the towering, orderly buildings, all of it barely containing the messy, unpredictable, and often desperate lives of the millions of people crammed inside it. Everyone is just trying to get through the day, to find a moment of warmth, a brief respite from the cold. You feel yourself finally beginning to slip away. The aches in your body are fading into a distant numbness. The racing thoughts are slowing, becoming heavier, sinking. All right, let's get into it. Here we go. The cold comes first. It is a damp, seeping cold that lives in the brick of the building and the thin wool of your blanket. It is not the clean, sharp cold of the countryside you remember. You are surrendering to the exhaustion, letting it pull you down into the dark, quiet depths of sleep. It is not a peaceful drift, but a welcome fall, a merciful release from the weight of consciousness. Your last coherent thought is of Anna, her soft breathing beside you, a steady, comforting presence in the vast, cold darkness. You are not alone. That is something. That is enough. The city breathes out, a long, slow exhalation of steam and smoke and secrets. And in a small, cold room, on a lumpy mattress, you finally sleep. A deep, dreamless and profound sleep, the kind that only comes after a day spent surviving. It is a small death that makes the next day's rebirth possible. You are one small story in a city of millions, a single note in a vast, chaotic symphony. But your endurance is its own kind of victory. The simple act of waking up tomorrow will be a quiet defiance, a testament to the resilience of a human heart that refuses to be extinguished by the cold, the noise, or the dark. The darkness of the room feels absolute now, a comforting blanket. The city's sounds have faded to a distant, ignorable hum. The world has been reduced to the simple, physical reality of this mattress, this blanket, this small pocket of warmth you and your sister create together. The worries about rent, about police, about the future have all been shelved for a few precious hours. They will be waiting for you in the morning, of course. They always are. But for now, there is only the profound, restorative peace of oblivion. You drift deeper. The physical sensations of your body dissolve. You are no longer a collection of aches and pain, but a point of consciousness floating in a warm, dark void. This is the reward. This is the payment for the long hours, the smoke-filled air, the constant, low-grade fear. This brief period of non-existence, where the ledger in your mind is wiped clean and the weight of the world is lifted. The historical narrative often focuses on the grand figures of an era, the gangsters, the politicians, the inventors. But the true history is written in the silent, cumulative effort of millions of people like you, the ones who counted the money, washed the glasses, swept the floors, and walked home through the dark streets. The ones whose names are not in the headlines, but whose tired bodies were the foundation upon which the entire, glittering, frantic edifice of the age was built. Your breath deepens, evening out into the slow, steady rhythm of deep sleep. You are part of the great, sleeping heart of the city, one of millions of souls temporarily at rest, gathering the strength to face another day of the same. The struggle is the point. The endurance is the story. But a city cold, tinged with the metallic scent of coal smoke and wet ash. It is the kind of cold that finds its way into your bones before you are even fully awake. Then comes the smell. It is a symphony of decay and survival. And the sleep, this deep and dreamless sleep, is the grace that makes it all bearable. Boiled cabbage from the apartment down the hall, a scent that seems to have permanently stained the wallpaper. The faint, sour odor of unwashed bodies, your own included, mingled in the small, shared room. Underneath it all is the constant, low hum of the city's breath, damp earth from the alley, stale beer soaked into the floorboards from the tavern below, and the ever-present grit of dust. You keep your eyes closed for a moment longer, cataloguing the sounds. A deep, hacking cough from Mr. Petrovich in the room next door. It is a sound as regular as a clock. The groan of the building itself, a tired old beast settling its weight. Far below, the clatter of a milkman's bottles on the cobblestones, a sharp, clean sound in the murky dawn. A distant tugboat horn moans from the river, a lonely, mournful call that seems to speak of vast, open spaces you can no longer imagine. Your bed is a lumpy mattress on the floor, shared with your younger sister, Anna. Her breathing is a soft, rhythmic puff against your shoulder. You can feel the hard floorboards through the thin ticking, a constant reminder of where you are. The blanket is coarse, a single layer of protection that feels more symbolic than functional against the November chill. You are in a tenement on the Lower East Side, a place where privacy is a currency you cannot afford. You are 19 years old. Your name is Eleanor, but in the vast, churning engine of the city, your name feels like a secret you keep for yourself. To everyone else, you are just a girl, another face in the crowd, another body to fill a small space. You came here 6 months ago from a town in Pennsylvania, so small it was little more than a church, a general store, and a collection of farmhouses. Tonight, we are traveling back to the heart of the roaring 20s. You came with the promise of work, a way to send money back home, a way to escape a life that felt as small and unchanging as the fields around it. Opening your eyes changes nothing. The darkness in the room is thick and grey, only slightly diluted by the weak light filtering through the single, grimy window that looks out onto an air shaft. The view is a solid wall of brick, scarred with fire escapes and the ghosts of painted advertisements from decades past. This shaft is an echo chamber, carrying the sounds and smells of a dozen other families living lives as cramped and as desperate as your own. The physical act of rising is the first chore of the day. Your body protests with a series of dull aches, your back from the unyielding floor, your neck from the bundled-up coat you use as a pillow, your feet, which never seem to fully recover from the hours of standing. You move with a practiced slowness, careful not to wake Anna. You slide your legs over the side of the mattress, your bare feet meeting the shocking cold of the wooden floor. You shiver, a deep, convulsive shudder that rattles your teeth. You pull on your dress from yesterday, the fabric still holding the faint, greasy scent of the speakeasy. It is a simple, dark wool dress, chosen for its ability to hide stains and endure long hours. The cold fabric raises goosebumps on your skin. You move toward the small washstand in the corner, a cracked ceramic basin, and a pitcher of water that is now ice cold. There is no running water in the apartment. The pitcher is your allotment from the single tap in the hallway, a tap shared by all 4 families on this floor. You pour a small amount into the basin, the splash echoing in the quiet room. The water is brutally cold, and as you splash it on your face, it feels less like cleansing and more like a punishment. It is a shock that forces your mind into a state of sharp, unpleasant awareness. You dry your face on a thin, rough towel. You look at your reflection in the small, clouded mirror propped against the wall. The face that stares back is pale and tired. There are faint smudges of grey under your eyes. It is your face, you suppose, but it feels like the face of a stranger. Someone older and more worn than the girl who left home half a year ago. Does she remember you? Do you remember her? The next task is quiet, methodical. You braid your hair, your fingers moving with an economy born of endless repetition. A simple, tight braid down your back. No fuss, no vanity. It is a practical hairstyle, meant to keep your hair out of your face and out of the way. You secure it with a piece of string. Down the hall, a baby begins to cry, a thin, wailing sound that cuts through the morning quiet. It is quickly followed by the muffled, angry voice of its father, and then a softer, but we are leaving the flappers and the champagne towers of the silver screen behind, shushing sound from its mother. This is the daily soundtrack of the building, a constant tapestry of human struggle and small, fleeting comforts. You slip on your shoes, the leather stiff and cold. They are your only pair, scuffed and worn, the soles thin enough that you can feel the shape of every cobblestone, every crack in the pavement. They are the most important tool of your trade, and you dread the day they finally give out. Before you leave, you look back at Anna. She has rolled over into the warm space you left behind, her face peaceful in the dim light. She is only 16, and she works during the day at a shirtwaist factory, a job that is slowly stealing the light from her eyes. You leave your half of the blanket tucked around her. It is a small gesture, but it is all you have to give. Opening the door to your apartment requires a specific trick. You have to lift up and to the left to keep the hinges from screaming. You slide out into the hallway, closing it gently behind you. The air here is even thicker, a pungent mix of unemptied chamber pots, gaslight, and fried onions. The gas lamp at the end of the hall casts a weak, flickering yellow light, making the shadows dance and writhe. The communal water closet is at the end of the hall. The smell that emanates from it is a constant, low-grade assault on the senses. You avert your face as you pass, holding your breath. A quirky detail of modern tenement life that the reformers always wrote about was the sanitation, or lack thereof. They used phrases like a moral and physical pestilence, which sounded dramatic in print, but felt like a simple, foul reality when you lived it every day. Your journey begins with the descent. 5 flights of narrow, rickety stairs. The wood groans and creaks under your weight, a familiar and unsettling song. You keep one hand on the grimy, sticky wall for balance. Each landing offers a glimpse into another family's life through a half-open door. The sound of Yiddish, the smell of garlic and paprika, the sight of a line of washing strung across a cramped kitchen. The building is a world unto itself, a vertical village of strangers packed together. You emerge from the dark entryway onto the street, and the city hits you with the force of a physical blow. The air is a cocktail of smells. Horse manure from the delivery wagons, the sharp chemical tang of exhaust from the few automobiles that rumble past, roasting chestnuts from a street vendor's cart, and the underlying smell of the river, a briny, fishy scent that the wind carries in from the east. The sound is a cacophony. The clatter of iron-shod hooves on stone, the rumble of truck engines, the distant clang of a trolley car bell, the shouts of men unloading crates from a wagon, the high-pitched cries of newsboys. We are going to a place most people went, a cellar, a basement, a back room, talking the morning paper. Extra, extra, Harding administration rocked by scandal. The headlines are always about scandals and politics in a world far removed from this street. You pull your thin coat tighter around you and join the river of people flowing along the sidewalk. Everyone walks with a purpose, a hunched-forward determination. They are factory workers, shop girls, clerks, laborers. Their faces are a mixture of grim resolve and bone-deep weariness. You are all part of the same current, pulled along by the relentless gravity of the need to work. One foot, then the other. This becomes your mantra for the walk. The city is not a place for strolling. It is a place for navigating. You dodge a pile of refuse, sidestep a puddle of indeterminate origin, and weave through a knot of men arguing loudly in Italian. You keep your head down, your eyes focused on the few feet of pavement in front of you. Making eye contact is an invitation for trouble. Your destination is a small, unremarkable diner a few blocks away. It is run by a Greek man named Mr. Papadakis, a man with a perpetually worried expression and kind eyes. This is where you have your breakfast, the one meal of the day you eat alone, in relative peace. The diner is a narrow slip of a room with a long counter and a handful of small tables. The air inside is warm and thick with the smell of frying bacon, coffee, and damp wool from the patrons' coats. You take your usual seat at the far end of the counter, a spot that offers a view of the street but keeps you slightly removed from the main flow of customers. "The usual, Eleanor?" Mr. Papadakis asks, his voice a low rumble. He is one of the few people who uses your full name. You nod, a small, grateful smile touching your lips. "Yes, please, Mr. Papadakis." The usual is a cup of coffee and a thick slice of yesterday's bread, toasted and buttered. It is not much, but it is warm, and it is yours. The coffee is the most important part. It is often bitter, boiled for too long, but it is hot and strong, a jolt of liquid energy that helps to chase away the last vestiges of sleep and the persistent chill in your bones. A mainstream historical fact that often surprises people is the sheer importance of coffee to the working class of this era. It was fuel, a cheap and accessible stimulant that made long hours and grueling labor possible. The quality was often poor, a mix of chicory and low-grade beans, but its effect was what mattered. It was a small daily ritual that provided a moment of warmth and a kick of artificial vitality. Mr. Papadakis places the heavy ceramic mug in front of you. The steam rises in a fragrant cloud. You wrap your cold hands around it, letting the heat seep into your palms somewhere in the 5 boroughs of New York City during the height of Prohibition. For a few minutes, this is your entire world. The warmth of the mug, the bitter taste of the coffee, the relative quiet of this small corner. You eat the toast slowly, making it last. The bread is dense and chewy, the butter more grease than dairy, but it fills the empty space in your stomach. You watch the people passing on the street outside. They are phantoms behind the steam-fogged glass, anonymous figures hurrying toward their own daily struggles. You pay for your meal. The cost is a significant portion of what you allow yourself for food each day, but you consider it a necessary expense. It is not just about the food. It is about the moment of peace, the brief respite before you descend into the world where you earn your living. Your workplace is not far, but it feels a world away. It is in a different neighborhood, a place where the tenements begin to give way to small businesses and warehouses. The walk takes you through a labyrinth of narrow streets, the buildings leaning in on either side, blocking out the sky. The place has no name, no sign. It is a brownstone, identical to all the others on the block. The ground floor is a legitimate business, a small, dusty tailor shop that is always closed. Your entrance is around the back, down a flight of steep, slippery stone steps that lead to a heavy wooden door below street level. This is the midday of your workday, though the sun has barely risen. Your shift begins long before the first customer arrives and ends long after the last one has stumbled home. You are the first to arrive, apart from Sal, the bartender, and your boss. You knock on the door, a specific rhythm. 3 quick taps, a pause, then 2 more. It is a code that changes weekly. A small peephole slides open, a dark eye scrutinizes you for a moment, and then you hear the satisfying clunk of multiple bolts being drawn back. The door swings open, and Sal stands there, a large, stoic man who looks like he was carved from a block of oak. He is always dressed in a crisp white shirt and a black bow tie, even at this early hour. His face is a mask of professional neutrality, but you have learned to read the small signs of his mood in the tightness around his eyes. "You're early," he grunts. It is not an accusation, just a statement of fact. "The streets are quiet," you reply, stepping past him into the familiar gloom. The air inside is the first thing that greets you. It is an atmosphere, a presence. The smell of last night's excesses, stale cigarette and cigar smoke, the ghost of spilled whiskey that has soaked into the wooden floors, a faint, cloying sweetness from perfume, and the sharp, antiseptic smell of the sawdust Sal spreads to absorb the spills. It is the smell of manufactured fun and quiet desperation. We are going to spend a day in the life of someone who did not just visit these places for a thrill. The speakeasy is a long, low-ceilinged room. A polished wooden bar runs the length of one wall, its surface gleaming faintly in the dim light from a single, low-wattage bulb. Small, round tables are scattered across the floor, their chairs stacked neatly upon them. There is a small, raised platform in the corner where a piano player will sit later, his melancholic jazz the soundtrack to the evening. This is your brief respite, the calm before the storm. The room is quiet now, a sleeping giant. You can hear the drip of a leaky tap behind the bar, the hum of the icebox, the sound of your own breathing. It is in these quiet hours that the place feels most real, stripped of the pretense and noise of the night. Your station is a small, elevated nook at the end of the bar, near the back entrance. It gives you a clear view of the entire room, the front door, and the bar. You are the keeper of the books, the counter of the cash. Sal trusts you because you are quiet, you are quick with numbers, and you are not a thief. In this business, that is a rare and valuable combination. Your first task is to count last night's take. Sal retrieves a heavy canvas bag from the safe hidden behind a false wall panel. He places it on the bar in front of you with a heavy thud. The clinking sound of coins and the soft rustle of bills is the heartbeat of this place. You untie the bag and pour the contents onto the smooth wood of the bar. A mountain of crumpled bills and a cascade of coins. Your work begins. You separate the bills first. 1s, 5s, 10s. Your fingers are nimble and sure, smoothing out the wrinkles, stacking them into neat piles. You do it all by feel as much as by sight, the familiar textures of the currency a second language. Then you deal with the coins. You stack them in precise columns, pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters. The metallic clinking is a repetitive, meditative sound. You are good at this. The numbers line up in your head, clear and orderly. In a world of chaos and uncertainty, the simple, immutable logic of arithmetic is a comfort. 2 plus 2 always equals 4. A stack of 20 nickels is always $1. A quirky detail about Prohibition-era currency is how hard-worn it was. Cash was king in the underground economy. Bills were passed from hand to hand, crumpled into pockets, soaked in spilled liquor, and handled by thousands. They were often soft and flimsy, smelling of whatever environment they had just left. Counting this money was a deeply tactile experience, a direct connection to the anonymous lives that had touched it. As you count, Sal begins his own morning ritual. He wipes down the entire length of the bar with a damp cloth, his movements economical and practiced, but who survived by them. Our goal, as always, is not to tell a story of heroes or gangsters. He checks the taps, polishes the glasses until they gleam, and restocks the shelves with bottles of illicit booze. The liquor comes from a variety of sources. Some of it is legitimate Canadian whiskey, smuggled across the border and sold at an exorbitant markup. Some of it is cutting-edge liquor, a raw, high-proof spirit diluted and colored with caramel or iodine to resemble whiskey or rum. And some of it is bathtub gin, cooked up in local stills, a volatile and often dangerous concoction. Your job is to account for the money, not the morality or the chemistry of what is sold. Once the money is counted and recorded in a small, discreet ledger, you begin to prepare the chits. Customers, especially regulars, often run a tab. You write out small slips of paper, a system of credit built on a precarious foundation of trust and intimidation. This period of quiet work is your version of a midday meal break. Around noon, Maria, the cook, arrives. She is a stout Italian woman with a loud laugh and hands that are never still. She works in a tiny, sweltering kitchen in the back, producing a simple menu of sandwiches and salty snacks designed to make people thirsty. She brings you and Sal a plate of whatever she has made for the staff lunch. Today it is a thick bean soup with a chunk of hard, crusty bread. You eat at the bar, the three of you in a comfortable silence. This is your family of a sort, a strange, nocturnal family bound together by shared secrets and the mutual need for survival. The afternoon ordeal begins slowly, almost imperceptibly. It starts not with a rush of people, but with a change in the light. Outside, the world is at its brightest, but in this subterranean space, the afternoon is a time of deepening shadows. Sal turns on a few more low-wattage lamps, casting pools of amber light that only serve to make the darkness around them feel thicker. The environmental oppression is the gradual transformation of the room. The air, which was still and cool, begins to thicken. The first few customers arrive around 4 o'clock. They are the serious drinkers, the ones who are not here for the party but for the oblivion. They bring the smell of the outside world with them on their coats. Wet wool, cold air, city grime. They order their drinks in low murmurs, and their presence begins to generate the first layer of the evening's atmosphere. The clink of a glass on the bar, the low rumble of a conversation, the first curl of cigarette smoke, a pale blue ribbon that hangs in the still air. Your physical and mental state begins to shift. You are no longer just counting, you are watching. Your perch gives you a vantage point. You watch the door, noting who comes in. You watch the patrons, assessing their moods, their level of intoxication, but to feel what it was like to simply be there, to smell the air, to hear the sounds. You watch Sal, ready to assist if he needs change or if a customer becomes a problem. Your mind enters a state of heightened, low-level anxiety. This is the reality of working in an illegal establishment. Every new face could be a plainclothes police officer. Every loud noise from the street could be the beginning of a raid. Sal has a system in place. A button behind the bar can trigger a loud bell in the kitchen, a signal to hide the most obvious bottles of liquor on shelves, designed to collapse and conceal their contents. There is an escape route through the kitchen's coal chute. You have practiced the drill. But the fear is always there, a cold knot in the pit of your stomach. A mainstream historical fact is that police raids on speakeasies were incredibly common, but often they were more for show or for extracting bribes than for genuinely enforcing the law. A well-run speakeasy, like Sal's, had an arrangement. A weekly payment to the right patrolman on the beat and a larger monthly payment to his precinct captain ensured that you were usually warned about any official raids ahead of time. The real danger was from federal agents, the prohist, who were less predictable and far less susceptible to bribery. As the afternoon bleeds into evening, the trickle of customers becomes a steady stream. The room fills with bodies, and the temperature begins to rise. The air becomes a thick soup of smoke, perfume, sweat, and spilled alcohol. It gets in your eyes, your hair, your clothes. You can taste it on the back of your tongue. The noise level grows from a murmur to a buzz and then to a roar. The piano player, a thin, spectacled man named Jasper, arrives and begins to play. He does not play the frantic, upbeat jazz of the dance halls. He plays a slower, more melancholic blues, a sound that seems to perfectly capture the mood of the room, a forced gaiety hiding a deep, underlying sadness. Your work becomes mechanical. A customer orders, Sal serves, you take the money. Another glass, another coin, another bill, another entry in your mental ledger. You move with a fluid efficiency, your hands handling the cash while your eyes and ears monitor the room. The faces of the customers begin to blur into archetypes. The young lovers huddled in a corner, whispering secrets, believing they are invisible. The salesmen, loud and boisterous, their laughter too forced, their jokes falling flat. The sad man, who sits alone at the bar, nursing a single glass of whiskey for hours, his gaze fixed on something 1,000 miles away. The flapper, with her bobbed hair and her bright, desperate eyes, her laughter a little too shrill, her fun a little too frantic. You are invisible to them. You are part of the machinery of the place, the silent, observant cog that makes it all run. They hand you their money without seeing your face, to feel the weariness in your bones at the end of a long, long night. They are here to forget, and you are part of the scenery of their forgetting. The monotony is a strange kind of comfort. It is a rhythm you can lose yourself in, the counting, the watching, the listening. But it is also a grind. Your back begins to ache from sitting on the hard wooden stool. Your eyes burn from the smoke. A dull headache begins to throb behind your temples, a constant companion on these long nights. To cope, your mind drifts. You think of home, of the wide, open sky and the smell of clean dirt after a rain. The memory is so sharp, so clear, that it is a physical pain, a pang of homesickness that makes your chest ache. You contrast that clean silence with the suffocating chaos of this room, and you wonder if you made the right choice. But then you remember the reason you left, the stifling smallness, the lack of opportunity, the certainty of a life spent slowly fading away. This city may be a monster, but it is a monster that pays. You think of the money you send home each week. You picture your mother opening the envelope, her relief, her pride. That thought is your shield. It is the reason you endure the smoke, the noise, the fear. You are not just surviving for yourself, you are a lifeline for your family. The evening arrival marks the peak of the night. After 8 o'clock, the room is packed, a writhing mass of humanity. The noise is a physical force, a wall of sound that presses in on you from all sides. The air is so thick with smoke that the far end of the room is hazy and indistinct. It is hard to breathe, hard to think. This is the most dangerous part of the night. Tempers are short, fueled by alcohol and proximity. Arguments break out over cards, over women, over nothing at all. Sal handles it with a quiet, imposing authority. A low word, a firm hand on a shoulder is usually enough. But you have seen him use the heavy wooden mallet he keeps under the bar, a tool he calls the peacemaker. The signal to stop is not a single event, but a gradual process. Around 1 in the morning, the energy in the room begins to wane. The crowd starts to thin out, the loudest and most boisterous patrons stumbling out into the night. The roar of conversation subsides back into a buzz, then a murmur. By 2 o'clock, only the most dedicated drinkers remain, a handful of silent, solitary figures scattered around the room. Jasper the piano player packs up his sheet music, nods to you and Sal, and slips out the back door. The silence he leaves behind is profound, almost shocking. Your evening chores begin. This is the second counting. You gather the cash from the register Sal has been using, another canvas bag full of crumpled bills and heavy coins. You retreat to your nook and begin the methodical process all over again. The numbers are larger now, the stacks of bills higher. As you count, Sal and Maria begin